Hi, in this tutorial we're just going to finish up the eye, hopefully quickly. I've got most of the structure in here. I'm just going to refine it to add a little detail. Now, I've been tweaking it a little bit off camera to get things a little better, although I still see things that could be improved by sort of flattening out this a little bit. Just emphasizing the plane of the eyelid here, that it has depth, has thickness, that sort of stuff. It's better on the lower eyelid. Maybe pull this one up a little bit. But anyway, you can tweak these till the cows come home, and you can always be slightly unsatisfied. But it's in generally a good form. If I turn off the eye, you can see that I've got a pretty nice structure, so it's coming forward and back and around, touching the eye in there. Now we've got a little bit of room in here for the in the medial canthus, which is fairly well defined with the medial palpable ligaments. I may need a little more resolution in here to get some of the form that I want, but I'm going to put in the caruncle now. Now I have to admit I've tried to do this tutorial a few times now, and I never get this caruncle right. I got it. I think I did a good job in my the other model that I did of this thing, but I'm having a hard time replicating it. So I think I've got enough geometry in here. If you felt that you needed more geometry, you can always add an edge loop coming around here up to the nose if you needed a little more space. But I'm not going to do that, and the reason is that I find I tend to overwork this area, that I add too much detail to this little place. It's important to have the caruncle, that little mound of pink flesh in there, but you don't want to overdo it. If I just look at some of these pictures, like you can see it here in his eye, but I mean you can't make out the form really. You just see a play of light and shadow and specular highlight. Here you can see there's something there, but you can't really make out the form. Let's see, who else is there? This sleepy looking guy. You can see it in there, but again, you can't really make out the form, so I don't want to really... Hey, there's Sleepy up close. I don't really want to overdo it. You can see the structure of this stuff, so I do want to try and capture that. And I'm going to show you how to put in the detail. You can see this guy is a little older, probably about my age, and so his eyelids are, the flesh above his eyes are kind of falling over top of his eye. You can see there's a bit of a wrinkle in here too, so we're going to look at adding some of that detail as well, and not spending too much time on the caruncle. But anyway, so what I would probably do is just go in here, select this face, make sure I just have one face selected, yep, and go to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and then scale it. So we're just, by extruding, we just add extra data, and we can just make a little bump here. And like I say, I don't want to overdo it, and even that's probably just enough. It looks a little big. So yeah, here I go again. I'm going to start overworking it. If I do, I'll stop, and I may pull it in a little bit. Pull these lines down a little bit to emphasize the ligaments that sort of sit in front of it. And maybe push this one back and in a tiny bit, so it's still a little too big. Anyway, look at some references and try and build it, but just get some semblance of the form in there. Now, we also need to add a little more resolution here to work in some of the lines going around the eye. I can't stop myself. I've got to tweak it a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. Stop. Make me stop. Okay, I'm going to add a little more detail in here. I'm pushing this one back to get that. If we look at him again, so we've got this big depressed area that goes into this line. So we're going to try and build that in a little bit. So let's add one more edge loop just up here. That'll give us the resolution we need to do that. So So you can see we can take this one, oops, this one, push it back a little bit. Again, my model is not, my person is not as old as the person that you're working on, so I don't want to overwork this, but I'll do this a little bit. So you can see I'm pulling down this, maybe pulling it forward a little bit to get that bit of sagging flesh. Even here, I can reproduce that ring by pulling them out, so you get a little bit more of a tired looking eye. The form looks pretty good. So of course, this is what you need to do, but it's up to you how much you put in. Look at references, like I say, of people in the age group you're shooting for, and you can really emphasize it if you want, like I'm doing here by grabbing more points, and we're getting that line. Sorry, a little more clearly. Now it's kind of doing something funny here. Maybe we don't want this to sink back in so far as we get to the corner. Anyway, I think you get the idea. That's how you can add resolution to change the structure of the eye. The same if under the eye, if you want to make it a little more tired looking, you can work with this line. I'm not going to add any more detail because I'm not going to make this person any older looking. But you know, you can make a bit of the saggy eye like that. But I'm going to undo out of that because I don't want that much. Oop, I hope I have enough undos. Come on, undos. No more undos. Well, I can... There is one other way to undo these things. If I go to Window, Hypergraph Connections, I've got my head selected. And you can see that, or maybe you can't. But here's all the history on my object now. So I told you always to erase your history, but I haven't erased it recently, and it may help me a little bit. I can get rid of this poly split ring. That's the edge loop split that we did. So if I don't want that edge loop in there, I can always go in there and delete it and go back to this point. Now I should say that don't go willy-nilly through the hypergraph here deleting stuff, because you have to be kind of aware of what it is you're getting rid of, otherwise you could wind up with problems. Anyhow, just a couple more things to do. I'm going to leave mine like this. I may add another edge loop later, but for now it's looking pretty good. If you wanted to add a little wrinkle in the eye, you can do that, and I'll show you how using another tool. I'm going to turn off the eyes for a second. And what I want to do essentially is just to create a new row of polygons, but not going all the way out to the side of the head, all along this edge loop. So I'm going to create not an edge loop, but just a little separate loop of polygons here. So I'll go into object mode. I'm going to use a new tool now called the split polygon tool. So here it is under edit mesh. I'm going to go into one mode. And so I just want to add a little extra resolution in here right around the corner of the eye. So I'm going to go out here, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here halfway or part way along this edge, into here, 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 and hit return. So if I go into smooth mode, I've made this little loop here. Now, if you remember, I said that I always want to try and make four-sided polygons. Well, unfortunately, I haven't done that. I've created a, this is a 1, 2, 3-sided polygon. and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided polygon. There's a quick and easy way to fix this. I can simply use that split edge loop tool again. I just pressed Y to launch it, and if I create a split there, Y again, create a split there, and then I've created a whole bunch of 4-sided polygons again. So this one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then these little ones still look like triangles, but if we actually look at the vertices, they're actually 1, 2, 3, 4-sided. Now, this isn't always the best thing to do because you wind up with these vertices with 5 or more edges flowing into them, and that can cause problems with smoothing and things like that. So I generally try and avoid it, but if you want to add this little local wrinkle in here, you have to do this sort of stuff. So to add the wrinkle now, we've got this little extra local resolution. I can just select these central points and push them in and push these ones down a little bit, so you can see that it's causing this little fold locally, and I can have it die off. So if I go to object mode, we can put in a little wrinkle there. Now you don't have to do that unless you want to give it a shot. Mine's a little exaggerated here. Normally we would paint in these wrinkles with texturing and things like that. It may be more important to put in the little fold over the eye for your slightly older person. But you can see he's got the wrinkle there plus the fold going down. So you can look at these images and try and replicate this a little bit. Okay, now the last thing I want to do is just to add a couple more edge loops. Now I'm going to undo this split. I don't want it here in my model. And in fact, you may want to do this step before you do that split. We're going to add a couple more edge loops here just to tighten up the eye. So I'm going to go to recent commands, insert edge loop, and one right near the rim of the eye here, and it'll just make a nice tighter edge. So it just makes a sharper eyelid like that. Actually, that looks a little too tight to me, so I'm going to redo it and not pull it in quite so close. So if you don't go in quite so close, it's not going to be quite as sharp. And I may actually now pull a couple of these vertices down a little bit to soften it up slightly. May want to turn the eye on for this part. Okay, and so that looks pretty good. Like I say, your head is going to look different than mine. You're going to have to work in some of the detail of the folded over skin probably, if you think that's appropriate. But you'll just have to work on it. So there we go. We've got the mouth and the eye finished, and when we come back, we'll work on the nose. Thanks.